Welcome everybody to Monday Morning Call with Paul. We have our special guest here today, best-selling author. I don't know if you guys ever saw the book, but I've seen it everywhere. The Power of Zero, Mr. David McKnight, the true financial guru, if you ask me. David, thanks for coming on, man, especially on such short notice. We really appreciate you.
Pleasure. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, man. So we wanted to kind of jump into your new book. You got a new book out. I think a lot of people don't necessarily see or know a lot about your history. You have a lot of books that you've done, and it's mostly all in the financial sector. I kind of just wanted to jump in on what inspired you to kind of write The Guru Gap, your new book that you have coming out.
Well, I've been selling life insurance for 25 years, and at least once a month, when I recommend what I call the LIRP or Index Universal Life, someone will go home, and because it's a new concept for them, the first thing they're going to do is what? They're going to go to the internet and say, IUL, LIRP, why haven't I heard of this before? These guys are talking about how great it is, but I've never heard about it. So they go to the internet and they want to Google it. And what is the first thing that pops up when they Google cash value life insurance, permanent life insurance, IUL, LIRP, what have you? Or they're going to see something from Dave Ramsey. They're going to see something from Susie Orman. They're going to see something from Clark Howard, who's got a nationally syndicated radio show. They're going to see something from Ramit Sethi, who's got a documentary on Netflix and a best-selling book that talks about it. And what do these people say? Dave Ramsey says, the only people who ever get cash value life insurance are either dupes or they just haven't researched it enough. It's a steaming hot pile of garbage. Clark Howard says the only people that ever try to get you to buy a life insurance policy are money-grubbing, commission-hungry life insurance salesmen. Susie Orman says, if anybody ever tries to sell you cash value life insurance as an investment, you are to shut down the conversation immediately and never talk to that person again. So that's how it goes in life insurance. So we immediately come face to face with these mainstream financial personalities who have an axe to grind against cash value life insurance. There's only one problem with what these people are saying. It's just not true. I mean, there may be certain circumstances in which cash value life insurance is not the right thing for a given individual to get. But what they're doing is they're painting everything with a really broad brush because they have to, by definition, dispense one-size-fits-all financial planning advice in the very moment that they say cash value life insurance works in situation A, B, and C, but not D, E, and F. All of a sudden, they've introduced nuance into the situation, and people are like, oh, so you're telling me I can't get all my answers from Dave Ramsey? I can't get all my answers from Susie Orman? Now, all of a sudden, I need a customized, tailored financial plan. And that is invariably fatal to the business model of Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman and Clark Howard. They want America to believe that their show or their brand is one-stop shop. They can get all their answers there in the very moment that somebody feels like, well, Dave is just spouting out platitudes. He's not really giving me the full story. I need more nuance in my life. I can't just pay attention to these guys and get all my questions answered. That's when they start to lose them. And so problem is that what they're dispensing goes against decades and decades of academic studies and goes against the very tenets of math and science. We know, for example, by the way, what type of life insurance does your group typically sell?
So term and whole life. So a little bit of both. Yeah. And now a lot more into IULs and annuities now.
Okay. So whether you're talking IUL or whole life, this much we know. We know that if you, for example, were to accumulate just 3 years worth of living expenses in your whole life or IUL policy by day one of retirement, and then in the year following a down year in your stock market portfolio, you pay for your living expenses out of the cash value of your life insurance policy, we know that the that gives your stock market portfolio a chance to recover before you take further distributions. So what have you done? You have effectively, according to all the studies and reams of academic data, you have effectively doubled the withdrawal rate on your portfolio. For example, we know that, decades of PhD studies have said that you can only take 4% sustainable withdrawal rates from your 401k or IRA in retirement and have a realistic expectation of you having your savings last a 30-year retirement through life expectancy. If you use the strategy that I just explained to you that involves cash value life insurance by paying for your living expenses out of your cash value life insurance in the year following a down year in the market, giving your stock market portfolio a chance to recover before you take further distributions, you have now increased the sustainable withdrawal rate on your retirement from 4% to 8% with a 95% success ratio. So what does that mean? That means whereas normally you would need $2 million to be able to have an $80,000 per year lifestyle based on the 4% rule, now you would only have to have $1 million based on the 8% rule to be able to have that same level of distributions, because you paid for your living expenses in the year following a down year in the market out of your cash value life insurance, gives your stock market portfolio a chance to recover before you make further distributions. So these are just a couple of examples of why I think that mainstream financial personalities like Dave Ramsey, Suze Orman, Clark Howard, Ramit Sethi, I'm not even getting into Ken Fisher yet because we haven't talked about annuities yet, but Ken Fisher, I have almost an entire chapter on Ken Fisher. That the whole idea is just to set the record straight on financial tools that experts have written reams of studies about. And these mainstream financial gurus, because they are dispensing one-size-fits-all financial planning advice, come in and they try to knock the legs out from underneath these types of instruments. And the math and science just doesn't really agree with what they're saying. So I felt like I had to write this book to sort of set the matter straight.
It's funny you say that, David, because I think, the one tool in the tool belt is going to fix everything in the house. Is just not possible.
Right.
And my father always told me, follow the money. And when I researched Dave myself, Ramsey, and I found out he has a lot of money invested in a particular company, which I won't name, that only sells term. It kind of then opened my eyes to thinking, okay, maybe this isn't going to be the only advice I should be following. And this was years ago that I looked it up. But yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. What are you hoping the readers get from this new book of yours?
I think what I'm hoping is that they realize that you can't take at face value everything that comes out of Suze Orman and Dave Ramsey's mouth, that they actually have agendas, that they have particular products that they're, you mentioned Dave Ramsey's relationship with this term insurance company. If you were to watch Dave Ramsey's sidekick, George Camel, recently did a anti-IUL video, which I recently responded to. And he goes through for about 15 minutes and talks about all the bad things about IUL. And I debunk every single one of those things that he says along the way. But at the very end of it, what should pop up but an ad for this term insurance company that those guys are pushing? So their hope is to get everybody to, no questions asked, cash in all of their cash value life insurance policies, pay the surrender charges, no questions asked, take whatever surrender value is left in those policies and earmark it towards a term insurance policy. So this is what we're all up against, folks. If we're in the life insurance industry, this is what we're going to come up with. It's a incontrovertible reality that we're all going to be facing, is that when we get someone to sign an application for life insurance, they will invariably go to the internet and they will they will see these anti-cash value life insurance screeds from these mainstream media personalities. And my goal was to try to equip financial advisors with the tools that they need to be able to debunk what all of these mainstream financial gurus are saying. And I think what this book does is it goes through and systematically analyzes all of the different statements that these financial gurus have made vis-a-vis annuities and cash value life insurance. And it goes through and it completely picks it apart, debunks it, gives mathematical examples of how these products can help retirees and pre-retirees wring the most efficiency out of their retirement savings. Let's face it, at the end of the day, Americans have a finite amount of money. They don't have an unlimited amount of resources. They got a finite amount of money. And the goal should be to get that money to last as long as possible. And I'm here to tell you that when you utilize cash value life insurance, and annuities, statistically speaking, your money will last longer than the person that does the investment approach alone. That's been corroborated in my book. It's been corroborated by an Ernst & Young study that came out recently. The people that have investments, cash value life insurance, and annuities, their money lasts longer. They spend more in retirement than people that just take the investment only approach.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. David, who do you see as your primary audience? Like what particular groups are you hoping to reach?
So every single one of my books has been written with both the financial advisor or the agent in mind and members of the general public. So these are books that financial advisors can use to bone up on each of these particular issues, to have some ammunition to be able to bring to bear when they come face to face with a Dave Ramsey acolyte or a Susie Orman acolyte. So that's the first group. I want to reinforce the financial advisors in the world who are constantly coming face to face with anti-annuity and life insurance read from these mainstream financial gurus. But I also want advisors to be able to hand these books out to members of the general public, to be able to sort of preemptively disarm Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman before our clients and prospects ever come face to face with what they're saying. And so I think that this book has a really broad target. It's pretty much anybody who wants to save for retirement, any financial advisor who's selling life insurance annuities, this book is going to be right up their alley.
Um,
Follow the money.
During
Right?
the process of writing the Guru Gap, what's something that surprised you the most, would you say?
Well, the thing that really surprised me is, number one, there's a lot of things about these financial gurus that I like. I listen to a 30-minute YouTube video of Dave Ramsey on a stage somewhere talking about true financial principles. And at the end of the day, I'm like, I got to get my kids to listen to this because I agree with everything he just said. So I was surprised by how much I agreed with what they were saying. In large part, I think that they're preaching sound concepts, and I think that they're helping out broad swaths of America to get out of debt and get on the road to financial independence. But what I also realized is that people like Dave Ramsey, because they are one size fits all, sort of paint by the numbers, financial dispensers of advice, they don't really know what they're talking about when it comes to the details. So for example, Dave Ramsey says that you should never do a Roth conversion, for example, if you're within 5 years of retirement. Well, you cannot find that advice anywhere on the internet. In fact, Wade Pfau, who is a PhD out of Princeton, who wrote the foreword for my book, he goes, I can't believe that Dave Ramsey said this. Like, Wade Pfau is just like, this is unbelievable that Dave Ramsey would spout this type of advice to his audience. He also says that if you do, for example, a Roth conversion, you should never bump up into a higher tax bracket in the process. I personally think that if you're currently in the 22% tax bracket, and for 2% more, you can shift an extra $180,000 to tax-free by taking advantage of the 24% tax bracket. Why would anybody in their right mind not want to do that? And Dave Ramsey says, no, don't do it. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't understand that there's a sweet spot on the Trump tax cut. And when Dave Ramsey says that, that cash value life insurance, this is what he says. He says 100% of cash value life insurance sucks 100% of the time. If you have it, you should absolutely, no questions asked, 100% of the time, cash it in, take the surrender fee, and then move on to the next best thing. Well, I don't think that that's great advice. I think that if somebody is, for example, using a cash value life insurance policy as a volatility buffer in retirement, like the strategy I just explained a few minutes ago, I think that's a pretty sound way to be able to wring more efficiency out of retirement savings. So the thing that really surprised me is how some of these financial gurus, they go about a half an inch deep and about 10 miles wide. Okay. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, let's go, so wide when it comes to tax-free retirement. Let's go 10 miles deep on how to shield America from the freight train that's bearing down on their retirement plan in the form of higher taxes. So I was really surprised how little some of these gurus knew about some pretty important and complicated things.
Interesting. maybe it's they thinking of the target audience just trying to get that surface level because that's what's going to sell and that's how much people are actually attention is going to learn into it instead of most people I don't think go into it deep. Maybe that's the concept that they're following. But
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to take really complicated concepts and distill them down into 10-second sound bites because
right. Because it
that's our attention
sells.
span these days. That's what
Yeah,
sells. 10-second sound bites. And you cannot, for example, do justice to
no,
cash value life insurance or annuities. I mean, Ken Fisher says, I hate annuities and so should you. He's got it trademarked, right? That's a phrase he's got
yeah,
trademarked. And
right.
so he has a video where he says, I'd rather go to hell than sell you an annuity. He gives 8 reasons why. In the book, I go through each one of those reasons. I debunk them one by one. So the goal here is to just, America is taking at face value what these gurus are saying about really, really important financial tools that should be part of the tool belt. And they're taking it all at face value. And I think someone for the very first time in a book through a Main Street publisher, through this is distributed through Penguin Random House, through a Main Street publisher, should
Yeah.
have the ability to go through and debunk what these guys are saying, because at the end of the day, it's actually going to cause people to run out of money before they otherwise would had they been availed of these important financial tools.
Well, since we're talking about financial gurus and several different ones, how does a person like me or myself or our audience here kind of figure out, what's good advice versus bad advice? How do they discern that?
Well, I think it's important to just not put all your eggs in one guru basket, as it were. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, if you are a follower of Dave Ramsey, I think it's important that you just see what else is out there. I mean, Susie Orman says things that dramatically contradict even what Dave Ramsey says. Dave Ramsey says you can take an 8% sustainable withdrawal rate on your stock portfolio in retirement. Susie Orman says, no way. It's more like 4 and possibly 3. I mean, that's a huge difference because according to Dave Ramsey, if you need $80,000 to live per year in retirement, you only got to accumulate $1 million by the time you retire because that's an 80,000, it's an 8% distribution rate. Susie Orman says it's more like 2 million, 2.5 million. It's a huge
Big
variance in what
difference.
these guys are
Yeah.
recommending. And so I think you've got to really, and of course I'm biased here. I just think you should read all my books and I think that'll solve your problem.
Well, with that being said, is there any kind of like unique features or chapters that you're excited about people discovering in your new book?
I'm really excited about the last 2 chapters. Okay. The last 2 chapters in the book, let's see if you can see this. This is the book right here.
It might not come up.
There
Put
it
it
is
in
right
front of
there.
you. There you go. Yep, perfect.
So the last 2 chapters of the book are case studies. So I take somebody who's like 40 years old and I say, if they save money for retirement like Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman say that they should, how long will their money last? I literally show how much money they'll be able to spend in retirement and how long the money will last. And then I say, what if we were to ignore everything that the mainstream gurus are saying, actually do the opposite in some cases of what they're telling us we should do, and we incorporate annuities and cash value life insurance into their financial picture? How much longer will their money last? And how much more protected will they be from the impact of higher taxes? And I'll tell you what, the difference is like night and day. I mean, the amount of money that they can spend in retirement by incorporating these 2 things into their financial picture, it just takes your breath away. I mean, and the fact that they have such an axe to grind against these tools that will really make people's money last longer, it just sort of boggles the mind. And then the second chapter, somebody who's already in retirement or incorporates annuities and life insurance into their financial picture, it shows how much longer their money will last, how much more discretionary income they will have. So it's just really gratifying to be able to see that when it's not just conceptual, when we mathematically take a look at people's financial picture, whether they're pre-retirement or post-retirement, in either scenario, by incorporating life insurance into annuities, their money just lasts longer. And you know what? The number one fear that people have in retirement is running out of money before they run out of life. That's their number one fear. They fear it more than death itself, right? And so if at the end of the day, we can introduce some strategies to them by debunking some of these mainstream financial gurus that help them wring more efficiency out of their retirement savings, get their money to last longer along the way, then I think we're doing a huge service to a broad swath of America.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. In the Guru Gap, is there like practical steps for people to follow?
Yeah, first of all, I tell them to just stop listening to Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, Clark Howard, Ramit Sethi, Ken Fisher.
That's step one.
Just cut it off altogether. They all have agendas. So just
Uh-huh.
stop listening to those people. I do think that they have good things that they do say. Like I said before, there's a lot of good out there. But if you are trying to winnow through all of their different messages and trying to figure out what's true versus what's false, and you don't have a guide along the way, it can be very, very confusing and frustrating. So I say, look, you don't need to pay attention to those people anymore because they all have agendas. So the first step is to sort of jettison what those guys are trying to tell you, move on from it, and then start to embrace some strategies that have been supported and upheld by years, actually decades of financial studies, reams of academic studies. We know, for example, that annuities, PhDs for the last 4 decades have been trying to make the case that annuities can extend the life of your retirement savings better than any other financial tool. Yet here we have Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey that says you should not touch annuities because you can get 12% annual rates of return in the stock market. Why would you touch an annuity when you'll get 12% linear year over year over year returns in the stock market, which of course never happens. So jettison what these guys are telling you and start looking at the facts, look at the data, and above all, start reading my books, because I think at the end of the day, if you have someone that can shepherd you through this process and help you discern fact from fiction, I think that's going to help the most at the end of the day.
So this is kind of an offbeat question here, but I was watching another interview of yours, and you talked about how you're very laser focused, like on one thing at a time, super laser focused. I even think you said you were opposite of ADD, which is I'm ADHD all the way. How much time did you take in researching and the completion, from beginning to completion of this book?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I wrote the book in about 2 months, but a lot of the research had been taking place in the 2 to 3 years prior to that. For those of you who are not following me on my YouTube channel, that's probably the single best place where you can go to sort of arm yourself against what you're likely to see from Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. I mean, on my YouTube channel, if you have a chance, just go pick up your phone and follow me on YouTube, because I put out 3 to 4 videos a week, half of which are addressing these financial gurus. And I go through line and verse and I debunk everything they're saying. And I show why none of it really adds up. Sorry, what was your original question? I got
so just because, like I was saying, in previous interviews I've seen of you, you were talking about how you're very focused and very specific. How long did it take you from your research start, hey, you know what, I'm going to start writing this new book, to completion? Like, how much time? Obviously, it's a lifetime with a lot of it, because a lot of the knowledge comes from stuff that you've learned over the years. But, when you decided, hey, I'm going to write the Guru Gap, how much time did it take you?
Well, first of all, it took me about 6 months to persuade my agent that it was a book worth writing. And sometimes my agent doesn't always believe me when I say, look, this is going to be an amazing book. I think people are going to buy it. But my literary agent, it took some arm twisting to say, look, nobody's ever written a book like this before. Nobody's ever taken on the giants like Ken Fisher and Susie Orman and Dave Ramsey. Somebody's got to do it. I think this book is going to sell like hotcakes, because particularly financial advisors have been looking for some sort of tool that they could leverage to help counter everything that we're seeing out of Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman. And so I would say that the genesis of this thing took place over the course of 2 to 3 years and came out and was manifested a lot in my YouTube videos. So on my YouTube channel, I've got hundreds of videos on there, many of which address these financial gurus. But it really took me about two months to coalesce all of this information into one book. And we know that this is going to be launched on December 10th. And so I'm looking forward. Part of me is waiting on pins and needles to see if Dave Ramsey is going to send me a cease and desist letter. But that's why I say you got to get your copy
Hey,
before
you
they
can
before
you
they give
can
us
only
something.
hope, David, because if that happens, then people are paying attention, right?
I'm on the radar. That's right.
Yeah. So now that you got the Guru Gap book completed, what's sort of next on the horizon? What's your future plans?
Like I've always got some book that's cooking, right? So my next book is going to be sort of like The Power of Zero, but it's going to be tax-free planning for beginners. And I don't know exactly what it's going to. And somebody says they're about to pre-order. Before you pre-order, I've got a way for you to get it cheaper than what you see on Amazon. So I'm going to share that with you at the end of the call. At the end of the call, so don't pre-order yet. Um, but my next book is going to be sort of like tax-free planning for beginners. Power of Zero really addresses people that have already saved quite a bit of money and they're trying to figure out how to shield that money from the impact of higher taxes. My next book is going to directly address people that are younger that are saying, okay, what do I need to know about investing? What do I need to know about life insurance? How does life insurance fit into the picture? Is it the whole thing, or is it just an important cog in the wheel as part of a balanced, comprehensive approach to tax-free retirement? So I want people that are not very familiar with investing, that haven't done a good job of investing so far, to be able to pick up the book and have all the tools that they need to understand, how should I use cash value life insurance? How should I use 401ks? How should I deal with emergency funds? If I've got a 401k at work, how should I be allocating those investments? I want people to be able to walk away from this book knowing everything they need to know. Number one, being educated on the likelihood that tax rates down the road are likely to be dramatically higher than they are today. And therefore, what should they do to prepare themselves? Step-by-step plan and how they can build tax-free wealth so that they can increase the likelihood that they can protect themselves from higher taxes and really wring the most efficiency out of their retirement savings.
Makes a lot of sense, man. I'm excited to read your book, to be totally honest with you. Um, I think for us, right, filled with a bunch of people that are in the life insurance agency, you've been in it 25 years. You see kind of what we're going up against as far as the Dave Ramseys and stuff. What's some advice you could give all of us as agents, like maybe a soundbite or something, like how would we address it when people go and look it up, or before they even look it up, they say they bring it up on the call. I just don't think life insurance is important, or like an IUL or a cash value because I can invest it in somewhere else. That's what Dave Ramsey tells me to do. What's some advice you can give us as sales agents to sort of combat that?
So I guess the broader advice that I can give someone who is starting out in the industry, because like you said, I've been at this for over 25 years, helped put thousands of Americans on the road to 0%. I started off just like most people on this call. I started with MetLife in 1997, selling
Wow.
VUL to people in college, right? $50 a month. That's how I started out, you know?
Yeah.
And I will tell you that one of the things that has made me successful is, like you said, I am very laser focused. I have been preaching mostly the same presentation for the last 20 years. Okay, like when MDRT asked me to give my presentation at one of their worldwide meetings, it's the same. It's roughly the same presentation that I would have given 5 or even 10 years ago. But I've been honing and refining and evolving that presentation year over year over year. So sometimes it's just about being able to stick to something and keep at it and keep your nose to the grindstone. I've literally been preaching tax-free for the last 25 years of my life. And so I see, unfortunately, a lot of people in this industry, they're bouncing around a lot. They're not maintaining their focus. They're doing lots of, they see shiny objects and they want to chase those shiny objects. I say, look, hone your craft, get really good at what you're doing, stick with it. Get really good at getting referrals, because these are the types of things that will keep you in business, and you'll hone your craft and you'll get better and better and better. And you'll get to the point, I once watched a video on this is just when YouTube was first coming out. And a lot of you guys have probably seen the video. It's Tiger Woods. He's got a club, he's got a ball, He's sort of
Just bouncing it around, right?
he's
On the top of
bouncing
the club.
he's bouncing that ball on his club, and he's doing it between his legs, and he's
Yeah,
doing it behind his back. We've all seen that video. And at the very end, he hits up high, and then he takes a
knocks
swing
it.
at it, and it goes way down. I said, I tell advisors, you need to own life insurance. And I don't mean like own it personally, although you do need to own it personally. You need to own the concept of life insurance, the concept of annuities. You need to know what these financial gurus are going to say before it ever comes out of their mouth. You got to be able to preemptively warn your clients and prospects what they're going to see when they look at it on the internet, and how they should condition their brains accordingly. You need to own this entire concept. You cannot own the concept if you are not working in it and with it consistently over a long period of time. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a book called The Tipping Point, and he talks about the people who are the experts in the world at any one thing have practiced it for 10,000 hours. I can tell
Yeah.
you this, I have given my flagship Power Zero presentation, which was the basis of the book, The Power of Zero. I've given it over 2,000 times. I have been marinating in this stuff for literally 25 years. There isn't a question that someone could ask me that I haven't heard at least 50 times. You've got to marinate in this stuff. You've got to become an expert in it. You got to become so good at it that there isn't a single question someone could ask that you're not prepared to respond to. The mainstream media is generally against cash value life insurance and annuities, and we need to turn that paradigm on its ear, and we need to take this mainstream. And I think one of the best ways to do that is by having a book that goes huge, hits all the bestseller lists. Now all of a sudden we've got the attention. We already got the attention of Ken Fisher, but then we get the attention of Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, Clark Howard, and the rest. I think that would be really, really huge news for our industry.
Well, we want to help you get a cease and desist from all of them. So
I appreciate that. Maybe not, but I appreciate it.
well, again, David, thank you so much for jumping on with such short time. Like, really appreciate you. All right, with that being said, everybody, thanks for joining Monday Morning Call with Paul. Appreciate you, and see you guys next time.